Part 2 of Excerpts from Chapter 18 of To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee. Atticus's glasses had slipped a little, and he pushed them up on his nose. "We've had a good visit, Miss Mayella, and now I guess we'd better get to the case. You say you asked Tom Robinson to come chop up what was it?"
"A chifforobe, a old dresser full of drawers on one side."
"Was Tom Robinson well known to you?"
"What do you mean?"
"I mean, did you know who he was? Where he lived?" Mayella nodded.
"I knowed who he was. He passed the house every day."
"Was this the first time you asked him to come inside the fence?" Mayella jumped slightly at the question. Atticus did not see her involuntary jump, but it seemed to me that he knew she had moved. He turned around and raised his eyebrows. He began again.
"Yes, it was."
"Didn't you ever ask him to come inside the fence before?" She was prepared now.
"I did not. I certainly did not."
"One did not's enough," said Atticus serenely. "You never asked him to do odd jobs for you before?"
"I mighta," conceded Mayella. "There was several N-words around."
"Can you remember any other occasions?"
"No."
"All right, now to what happened. You said Tom Robinson was behind you in the room when you turned around. That right?"
"Yes."
You said he got you round the neck, cussing and saying dirt. Is that right?"
"That's right."
Atticus's memory had suddenly become accurate. You say he caught me and choked me and took advantage of me. Is that right?
"That's what I said."
Do you remember him beating you about the face? The witness hesitated. You seem sure enough that he choked you. All this time you were fighting back, remember? You kicked and hollered as loud as you could. Do you remember him beating you about the face? Mayella was silent. She seemed to be trying to get something clear to herself. She glanced at Mr. Gilmer. "It's an easy question, Miss Mayella, so I'll try again. Do you remember him beating you about the face?" Atticus's voice had lost its comfortableness. He was speaking in his arid, detached, professional voice. "Do you remember him beating you about the face?"
"No, I don't recollect if he hit me. I mean, yes I do, he hit me."
Was your last sentence your answer?
"Huh? Yes, he hit. I just don't remember. It all happened so quick."
Judge Taylor looked sternly at Mayella. "Don't you cry, young woman," he began. But Atticus said, "Let her cry if she wants to, Judge. We've got all the time in the world." Mayella sniffed wrathfully and looked at Atticus.
"I'll answer any question you got. Get me up here and mock me, will you? I'll answer any question you got."
"That's fine," said Atticus. "There are only a few more. Miss Mayella, not to be tedious, you've testified that the defendant hit you, grabbed you around the neck, choked you, and took advantage of you. I want you to be sure you have the right man. Will you identify the man who raped you?"
"I will. That's him right yonder."
Atticus turned to the defendant. "Tom, stand up. Let Miss Mayella have a good long look at you. Is this the man, Miss Mayella?" Tom Robinson's powerful shoulders rippled under his thin shirt. He rose to his feet and stood with his right hand on the back of his chair. He looked oddly off balance, but it was not from the way he was standing. His left arm was fully 12 inches shorter than his right, and hung dead at his side. It ended in a small, shriveled hand, and from as far away as the balcony, I could see that it was no use to him. "Scout," breathed Jem. "Scout, look! Reverend, he's crippled." Reverend Sykes leaned across me and whispered to Jem, "He got it caught in a cotton gin. Caught it in Mr. Dolphus Raymond's cotton gin when he was a boy. Like to bled to death. Tore all the muscles loose from his bones." Atticus said, "Is this the man who raped you?"
"It most certainly is."
Atticus's next question was one word long. "How?" Mayella was raging.
"I don't know how he done it, but he done it. I said it all happened so fast
"Now, let's consider this calmly," began Atticus. But Mr. Gilmer interrupted with an objection. He was not irrelevant or immaterial, but Atticus was browbeating the witness. Judge Taylor laughed outright. "Oh, sit down, Horace. He's doing nothing of the sort. If anything, the witness is browbeating Atticus." Judge Taylor was the only person in the courtroom who laughed. "Now," said Atticus, "Miss Mayella, you've testified that the defendant choked and beat you. You didn't say that he sneaked up behind you and knocked you cold, but you turned around and there he was." Atticus was back behind his table, and he emphasized his words by tapping his knuckles on it. "Do you wish to reconsider any of your testimony?"
"You want me to say something that didn't happen?"
"No, ma'am. I want you to say something that did happen. Tell us once more, please. What happened?"
"I told you what happened."
"You testified that you turned around and there he was. He choked you then?"
"Yes."
"Then he released your throat and hit you?"
"I said he did."
"He blacked your left eye with his right fist?"
"I ducked and it glanced. That's what it did. I ducked and it glanced off."
Mayella had finally seen the light. "You're becoming suddenly clear on this point. A while ago you couldn't remember too well, could you?"
"I said he hit me."
"All right. He choked you. He hit you. Then he raped you. That right?"
"It most certainly is."
"You're a strong girl. What were you doing all the time? Just standing there?"
"I told you I hollered and kicked and fought."
Atticus reached up and took off his glasses, turned his good right eye to the witness, and rained questions on her. Judge Taylor said, "One question at a time, Atticus. Give the witness a chance to answer." "All right. Why didn't you run?"
"I tried."
"Tried to? What kept you from it?"
He slung me down. That's what he did. He slung me down and got on top of me."
"You were screaming all this time?"
"I certainly was."
"Then why didn't the other children hear you? Where were they? At the dump? Where were they?" No answer. "Why didn't your screams make them come running? The dump's closer than the woods, isn't it?" No answer. "Or didn't you scream until you saw your father in the window? You didn't think to scream until then, did you?" No answer. "Did you scream first at your father instead of at Tom Robinson? Was that it?" No answer. "Who beat you up? Tom Robinson or your father?" No answer. "What did your father see in the window? The crime of rape or the best defense to it? Why don't you tell the truth, child? Didn't Bob Ewell beat you up?" When Atticus turned away from Mayella, he looked like his stomach hurt, but Mayella's face was a mixture of terror and fury. Atticus sat down wearily and polished his glasses with his handkerchief. Suddenly Mayella became articulate.
"I got something to say,"
she said. Atticus raised his head. Do you want to tell us what happened?" But she did not hear the compassion in his invitation.
"I got something to say, and then I ain't gonna say no more. That N-word yonder took advantage of me. And if you fine fancy gentlemen don't want to do nothing about it, then you're all yellow stinking cowards. Stinking cowards, the lot of you. Your fancy airs don't come to nothing. Your Mammon and Miss May Yellerin don't come to nothing, Mr. Finch."
Then she burst into real tears. Her shoulders shook with angry sobs. She was as good as her word. She answered no more questions, even when Mr. Gilmer tried to get her back on the track. I guess if she hadn't been so poor and ignorant, Judge Taylor would have put her under the jail for the contempt she had shown everybody in the courtroom. Somehow Atticus had hit her hard in a way that was not clear to me, but it gave him no pleasure to do so. He sat with his head down, and I never saw anybody glare at anyone with the hatred Mayella showed when she left the stand and walked by Atticus's table. When Mr. Gilmer told Judge Taylor that the state rested, Judge Taylor said, "It's time we all did. We'll take 10 minutes." As a rule, a recess meant a general exodus, but today people weren't moving. Even the idlers who had failed to shame younger men from their seats had remained standing along the walls. Atticus and Mr. Gilmer returned, and Judge Taylor looked at his watch. "It's getting on to 4, he said, which was intriguing, as the courthouse clock must have struck the hour at least twice. I had not heard it or felt its vibrations. "Shall we try to wind up this afternoon?" asked Judge Taylor. "How about it, Atticus?" "I think we can," said Atticus. "How many witnesses you got?" "1. "Well, call him."